Thank you guys for tuning in. Jenny, welcome to Zoom. This is cool, isn't it?
It is.
It's pretty cool. Um, so I have a few layouts to share with you today, and two of them are something that I captured from a magazine, and one's a website. And then two are portfolios you've probably not seen from 2018, unless you looked through that. But I want to talk about eye movement direction, EMD, and alignment. Sometimes I'll call that point-to-point relationships. So I'm going to try to share something with you. We'll start with the Photoshop stuff. Okay, this is two spreads, I think. I'm not sure what's going on here. But when we're talking about eye movement direction, we're talking about you as the designer having control over where people look and what they see first and second and third in your layouts. So if we kind of look over here, you can see this really captures our attention. It overlaps a photograph, but it creates its own focal point and makes us start looking here. The power of shopping. Also notice that how this is an odd crop, because we don't have the rest of her body, but her legs and everything is pointing down. And so we go immediately to the next photograph. Then you can see this white space. Notice that it's very consistent throughout here.
So sorry.
We're talking about white space now. So you can see that it's very consistent. Anytime there's a model or these are just pointing devices, pointing down, this is looking in and it looks at this subheading. I can't read it, but it and this angle is bringing you down here. She's looking into the spread. She's facing to the right, but everything kind of brings us back around. So when you're working on your spreads, be conscious of how different things are acting as pointing devices and where do your eyes go. This is coming into here. We're showing enough of the word that we could probably read it. Over here, I assume that says jumping style because he's in motion. But I really like these large silhouettes breaking out of the frame kind of graphics. It's really eye-catching. And then they've kind of mixed in a little bit of black and white here, which ties back into this gray moniker that they have going on. But notice how small the page numbers are. This is something about the magazine. So this is a header. Sometimes you see it as a footer. But notice that it is very inconspicuous. You only see it if you need to. The error that I see in here, because I'm confused about what this is, I'm not sure if this is a fold, but we could probably pull this type in to about the corner of her eye so that it doesn't get lost in that fold. What do you think? So that was something that I was like, that's a little bit odd. Look how they did their captions.
Love that.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Photographed by, and it's got the studio and stuff. I thought that was really neat. It acts almost as another element, and it's pointing up. I mean, it doesn't interfere with this text because it's in contrast. So I thought that was interesting. Let me see what's going on down here. Okay, can you see the guidelines that I pulled? Okay, so now you start to see things lining up. And we talked a little bit about the white space here, but let me go to this web page. This is pretty amazing in terms of alignment and space. I'm just going to pull this horizontal guide down. I want you to just start noticing when things line up. This one's a little bit of a stretch, but look at the top of easy going right over here to these details on the bag.
Yeah.
We have accessories. Look at that relationship. And we can look at the cap height, or we can look at the baseline, and look at the baseline going right where those two links meet.
Wow. Very detailed.
Yeah, look at this. It's very specific. What's happening on this baseline? Wow.
The full.
That is not by accident. So, and that's just, you know, wow, look at what's happening. Let's look down here. Okay. Kind of, whenever you have round shapes, like the letter O or C or anything like that, we have to give them a little bit of room above and below so that those curved shapes appear to be as tall as other letters. It kind of happens the same way here with rounded elements. So here's this top one here. These numbers are aligned. Woo. That's aligned. So this is very planned.
Yeah.
The middle of this and that hand,
Wow.
boom. This white space is aligned. This actually brings your eye around to the two. I mean, everything is pointing to shop now. Shop now. You know, that's a humongous pointing device right there. Notice that everything's coming into the live area. Even if this is cut off, it's still bringing you around to the shop now, and we have this little detail here. Just the name. With the shoe coming in, the tie. If we look at this as a whole, your eye continues this line. And then we go wallets. And so everything is very well planned. So I know this is not a portfolio spread, but it still incorporates the principles of point-to-point relationships. And so do you have any questions about that? Okay.
It looks very professional.
It does, and it's amazing what just a little alignment can do to
cleaned it up really nice.
really clean it up. I mean, and it's an easy thing to do. Have you seen this portfolio of Krista Lyle's?
I think so.
Okay.
No, but it's cute.
Yeah, it is. It is cute.
It is. This is Krista. It was a big old picture of herself. But that's okay. So she's got her contact information here, her information, phone number, website, and social media. But I want you to notice this line. Her little, this is her website down here in gray. It's very light. But it's a consistent element. I also want you to notice this little sidebar, because while she did not use page numbers, I'm going to scroll through this really quickly, and you watch what happens to the sidebar.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's cool.
Isn't that cool?
Disney.
So whenever she has a campaign, it has a little color in her palette that belongs with her branding. And so this is a one spread. This is a one spread. Actually, it's two spreads. So if I am on this color, I'm with the logo campaign. Okay, so you can see how she included her concepts and digital comps, refinement. This was a vector image she designed, but she ended up changing it up. So it became a monoline type of thing. And so she designed this booklet for the festival, a stamp, tote bag, t-shirt, and some cups. But look how small her descriptions are. I can edit this PDF, and that's how I know how big your stuff is. This is Calibri 12 point. That's perfect. You know, notice she's got headlines. She's got subheadings with a little side stroke. That's a different little style. All her body copy is the same. She has no hyphenation. Well, there's one. She should have removed that. Do you remember how to remove hyphenation?
And characters?
No. Hyphenation is something in InDesign that you can control through the paragraph box, the paragraph panel. And there's a checkbox that says hyphenate or not. And if you uncheck it, that means anything in that style will not be hyphenated. So as you're exploring these things, I would definitely make some paragraph style, because when you come in week 10 and I say, let's take that body copy down 2 points, I do not want you to have to click on every text box and change the type. Use paragraph styles in InDesign, and then you can just change the style and it will update throughout your entire document. But when you create the style, you can make sure there's no hyphenation in that style, and you'll never have to worry about that. You just have to eyeball and see, okay, do I have any widows? And that would be one line at the end of a paragraph. I don't think she has any. So she's got her primary information over here, the objective, how she solved it, and then the application or the mock-up. So she's explaining what's happening, elements of color, how does that distinguish the flavors or different types of honey. Here's her mobile app. I've seen a lot of mobile apps where we show the entire phone screen. This is a year old, so I would tell her, update your phone mock-ups because we don't have buttons anymore. And maybe next year we won't have buttons big time. I don't know. You just want to make sure you're as current as you possibly can be with any electronic technological mock-ups, because you don't want to have to touch this next year to update it. But I encourage her to pull out the app icon separately. And if you have to show this screen, tuck it behind something, because it takes up a lot of real estate on your spread. And this is not all of the app screens. You can see she has really fine little dash lines that go to each screen. So you can see connect device, kitty profile, track. We picked out the most crucial screens that helped us understand what does this do, and she showcased those. Any questions thus far with Miss Lyles? No? I don't know if you notice it, but look here, I can see it. Look at this line. Now, pretty much, Krista has really achieved a lot of consistency. But do you see a thickness change?
Yes.
In that line? Now,
yes.
She could have put this line on the master page spread in InDesign, so that you put it in there one time, it never moves. Just like she must have done with these, because they're very well aligned across the board. And if they were misaligned, it would be a glaring mistake, don't you think? But that little thickness thing is very subtle, and it could be fixed by just putting it on the master pages in InDesign, and then it will be applied to everyone. I'm also now looking at her little website name here. It moves a little bit. It may just be the spread, I'm not sure. Ah, the Pantone color promos. Yay! These were her original photos. Then she pulled out the colors and made these look like Pantone color swatches. And then she wanted to show the type study and the application. So she ended up putting this type study here where you see the typography and use these mock-ups. So I thought that turned out well to get all that in to spread. This is a Ruby brand in promo. I think she probably just had this banner long ago, maybe just this piece. And she expanded it into the DVD and this larger promo ad. This is a book cover. She really wanted to use this original illustration, and I was like, well, what was it for? And she was like, I just did it. I was like, okay, well, figure out why it exists. Come up with a purpose.
Because of the cover.
Pardon?
Because of the cover?
Yep. She did this illustration first. I'm going to make it into a book. I'm going to make it into a book jacket. So that's what she did. And here's a spread with the e-library book icon and the ebook cover. That's kind of how that ended up. And a little thank you on the back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All right. So this one is from Kristen Niece Walls. And Kristen is quite a talented illustrator, so don't be overwhelmed by her illustrations. She's definitely an illustrator. Let me get here. It's a squarish portfolio, and she kind of uses this pattern throughout with this nice funky little color palette. Again, she didn't use page numbers. She just kind of color-coded them on the side. This theater season guide started out as her annual report. So when she did this for the theater, I said, you know what? This is a nice annual report, but it would be really great if it were a guide to the season. And so she kind of changed a few things around, but this was the cover of her annual report. So it just kind of changed. And it's a dynamic layout. It's very eye-catching from the start. And she decided that she would include some of the aspects of the annual report in the book because theater and fine arts relies so much on, trustees and people who donate money that she thought that it would be justified to appear in this booklet. So it kind of was an interesting transformation. This is her Plant Native NC logo, and she made a poster, brochure, packaging, illustration. I like how she lists the skills. It doesn't really matter so much about the software, but this is what she did. So I think that was pretty neat, and it was unique. But here's some more of the things that she's done. These are seed packs. Magazine ad, a little pin, brochure. And all of these are her original illustrations. This was her working with the culinary department. How many of you have worked with the culinary on a project? Anybody? Oh, yes, Victoria. Sometimes that happens in print production if culinary is running. And so this particular class was able to work with a baker, and then they created their promo. So they created a logo, business card, landing page, and their little truck. That was cute. This was that little soap package from Design Apps 2. And she did some custom illustrations and did some better copywriting and turned this into something that she could use. So kind of vintage. This is her Carolina Campus Cotton catalog.
That one was the nicest one of all of them.
Really? In your class?
Mm-hmm.
This is a little bit odd, this light blue on this minty green, but for the most part, she puts her designs on, she silhouettes them out and then has something that's more composite in the spread. And this really adds a lot of movement, which I like. This was a logo that she did the illustration and created the entire thing, the type and everything. We worked really hard for this not to look like plock, like a P. Maybe it could use a little bit more work, but it was really well done. And she showed her sketches, this cool mug that I would like to have, T-shirts. I asked her to see if she could use some Photoshop to iron out the wrinkles in some of these T-shirts. It looked like a fold line, but unsuccessful. This is a painting that she did. Amazing. And came up with a festival and tickets and badge. I'm not sure when she did this, but it's a poster for Banned Books Week. It may have been a contest or something. So she came up with all of this and bookmarks, posters, and a tote. And then, of course, illustration is her strength. So she does traditional as well as digital. So she included a few of her drawings and paintings. This one was very funny, this rat yoga. She has little rat poses for every different kind of yoga. This is kind of cool. And again, thank you. I thought that was a really strong one to share. So, consistency is going to go a long way to help, your layouts look really strong and professional. And anytime you're silhouetting anything, just make sure that your masking is really well done. And if you haven't printed anything yet, I would encourage you to print even just black and whites, just so you can see what's happening with the type and, what's going on. Can you draw some point-to-point relationships in your layouts? And, use your grids and use your guidelines to help you align stuff consistently. And if you're using master pages in InDesign, definitely set your grids up there. So if you want your headlines at a certain place, pull that line down, pull a left line and a horizontal line, and put some placement text in there. Has anybody had any problems working with master pages in InDesign?
No, not really. I just turn off sometimes because sometimes I put a rectangular page under to make it look like a paper. But sometimes I turn it off so I can see the grid.
Yeah. Yes. And if you put something on a master page, you on the individual pages that it's applied to, you can release. Master pages are kind of locked in place, but you can release them. What is it? Is it Command Shift click? Something like that. It'll open it up, and then you can change the text, or you can move it around and stuff like that. So, but try to lock down as many things that are consistent on every spread or every campaign as you can. And you can create multiple masters if you say, okay, these are my, this is my cover, or this is my first spread of a campaign. This is my second spread of a campaign. And you may have one or two, maybe three of those in your book, depends. And, at this point, I'm going to open it up to you guys for questions, because that's pretty much what I had to say. And we've got a little bit more time.
I know we're supposed to do 12 points, the letter, right? The font.
Or less. If it's 10 serif and it's got a big X height and it's highly readable, you could probably go down to 9 points.
Okay.
But your text does not have to be black. It just has to be readable and there when someone wants to get that information.
I have another question, Professor.
Okay.
Sorry.
No.
So how many pages we can do for campaign? Because I noticed some people put like 4, and I thought it was only 2.
Well, we lay them out as spreads, which is 2 pages. So I wouldn't have any more than 3 spreads for like a big campaign.
Okay.
You know, you can have 1, you can have 2, you can have 3. I wouldn't try to cram everything into one and allow, you want your work to be large enough to be seen. And ideally, you should be able to read any text if you wanted to, like on a 2-page magazine spread. If it's displayed in your book, I would expect to be able to read the copy to get some context.
Thank you, Professor.
So, Jenny, you got any questions? Or your little buddy?
Now, my biggest issue is description.
Writing descriptions?
Describing the work and the process.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think I need to go back in and try to work on.
Yeah. I would go in and read Kristen, this particular portfolio here. She was also an English major, and she did copywriting on the side. She has more robust descriptions than a lot of people, but she talks about what's the objective and how she successfully solved the problem. It's not necessarily like when we're going along in classes, we want to know, how did you do it, and do you understand what you did and why you did it? For the portfolio, it is much less about the software and what you did and how you did it, more than why did you choose to do this, So I would err on the side of not necessarily talking about software stuff, but talk about the why and the how does this meet the objective. But first you got to be clear about what is the objective of the project. And if you don't know, write a story about it, make it work, because all those constraints are gone. So if it was like, well, I don't remember, maybe it was a contest, well, then just kind of make up some sort of context that that's the objective and make sure that you're meeting it, like that Flock and Fiber thing. She went and made all these she made the booklet and t-shirts and all this stuff. Well, they want people to come back, and it's a big place for special group with common interests to come together. And so they want to wear that, and so that, anyone who sees them may know that they knit or they crochet or they raise sheep or whatever to make the yarn and stuff like that. So, she kind of understood what that was about. But these are all found in the 2018 portfolios, and that big chunk that I keep leaving out there in the middle of lessons, former student portfolios. There's good ones, there's less good ones, but Kristen Walls is very strong, and she's in the 2018. And Krista Lyle, the one that I showed you before, she had very good descriptions as well. And I think I shared with you Chris Batista's examples. And he's a pretty no-nonsense kind of guy. So he wasn't really wanting to be real flowery about it. But he was like, this was the problem, this is how I solved it, and this is why it's successful. So, kind of going from that aspect, if that helps. And at our meeting, if we have time, I'll definitely be reading your descriptions, and we can do some copywriting together in that 30 minutes. So if you specifically want some feedback on your description and your campaigns, say that when you're posting it to the discussion board, because we have some talented writers in the class who may have some ideas or may be able to help you massage that copy a little bit. And even if you want to pull them out and say, okay, here this is, and just put that copy in your original post, And you can say, hey, I need some help with these particular descriptions, just to make it really easy for people to read them. They probably will want to have the context, but you're right to be thinking about those at this point. If you're making all the changes and getting everything up to date with the visuals, now's the time to think about that. But you have some time.
So is the 22nd, Professor, you had to have the portfolios in your office?
By the what?
Is it March 22nd?
Oh, for you? Tell them
just for me?
Just for you. Tell them where you live.
I live in
Arizona. So she's not coming to see me. She's the only one. So I asked Victoria to mail me her spreads by the 23rd. And then once I receive them and have a chance to look at them, Victoria, I'll contact you, and then you and I can do a live Zoom meeting together, just you and me, and we'll go over it, okay?
I'll do my best, Professor.
I will too. That's all we can do. That's all we can do. So any other questions? We've got about 5 minutes they'll let me have.
Anybody?
Anyone? Did any of this stuff help at all?
I got all these wheels turning in my head from the beginning of the portfolio to the end. And my question was, I think what Jenny said about the body copy of what to put in the portfolio. I was really worried about that.
If you can get a solid handle on what was the objective of the project, I will help you write the rest.
Perfect.
If you get objectives for each one of those, we know what we're talking about, then I can sit there and just ramble on about how you address those things.
Yeah, because that other part is where my brain kind of gets cluttered, because I can give you the simple part, but then going into detail about it. Just hold on.
It happens. You've been looking at it a long time, so it's like sometimes you need fresh eyes to see some things that maybe were happy accidents, or, whoa, I didn't know that was happening in that logo. That really works really well on another level that you didn't even plan.
Exactly.
So I am happy.
No.
Well, if you guys have no more questions, I will wrap it up, and I will try to get this posted later today. But thank you so much for tuning in, and if you have any questions, post. Yeah, we got 2 minutes. What you got?
Okay, this is probably done, but for the physical portfolio,
Yes.
Some of them are the screw posts, that they call it.
Mm-hmm.
So is that the type of thing where you send it off to get printed and they put the whole piece together, or do you have the pages printed and you can manually put it together yourself?
That's what I've seen. You order the case and they send it to you, and it's got these little sticky strips that adhere to your page, and these sticky strips have the hole punches in them at the right intervals. And so you're printing out your pages and trimming them to size, and then you have the screw post thing, and then you put it together. Just watch, just be consistent. And if we get cut off, I apologize, but I have less than a minute.
Jenny has all the good questions that that are in my head.
If you think about it, post it to student help, and we'll get on it.
That there too.
Yep, there too. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night, Professor. Bye.